Good afternoon to you. Mark Suttoth, HurricaneTrack.com, here with your Hurricane Pro and HD video blog for September 1st, 2013. The tropics starting to come to life here with an area that we really need to start watching closely. This is a tropical wave right here, came off of Africa several days ago, has been just a naked swirl of clouds, if you will, a very large tropical wave enveloped in all this dry, stable air that's been prevalent over the deep tropics for a good bit of the hurricane season, all through July and August. That's why we didn't see any August hurricanes. Now it's entering into a more unstable environment with more moisture in the mid-levels, gradually increasing, and we are seeing quite an impressive expansion of showers and thunderstorms as the surface pressures begin to drop ever so slightly, and this becomes more organized. The National Hurricane Center, go ahead and take a look at their 2 o'clock update, has now increased this to 40% probability of development over the next 48 hours and then 50% over the next 5 days, regardless of the development. Let's take a look at the Caribbean shot here. You folks in the Lesser Antilles really need to watch this closely. Remember, it's not just hurricanes that you're looking out for. Well, if it's not a hurricane, I'm not going to worry about it. This has a large envelope of energy, lots of showers and thunderstorms developing with this, and the Lesser Antilles here are already receiving some of the squalls. Because this is an elongated area overall, it's a very large tropical wave. The low pressure area seems to be developing back here, but showers, thunderstorms, gusty winds are going to spread through the islands. You can see already the development of some upper level outflow here on the northern part. There is an upper level low sitting back this way, imparting a little bit of shear, but that's starting to become less of an issue for this to develop, and actually the upper level low is going to be more ideally placed, allowing this system to be ventilated and gradually develop over time. One of the inhibiting factors, I've talked about this before in our other weak tropical storms that we've seen this year, notice how this is elongated as an oval shape. That is not what you look for when you look for tropical cyclone development. Here in the eastern Pacific is Tropical Storm Kiko, and you can tell clearly this has more of a round look to it as opposed to what we have here with Invest Area 97L that is much more elongated. Now, as we go through time, when we look at this tomorrow, on tomorrow's video blog, this should have a more rounded appearance. If it does not, then it's going to take longer to develop. The more round the vorticity signature is, the spin in the atmosphere, and that's what we're looking at here. This is the 850 millibar, 5,000 foot vorticity chart from the University of Wisconsin, and it clearly shows the atmosphere and its various areas of vorticity or energy or spin in the atmosphere. And just like a skater that pulls their arms in, and the closer they can pull their arms in, the faster they spin. It's called the conservation of angular momentum. They spin faster when they can pull their arms in and focus the energy around a common area of spin, in this case low pressure down here with this system entering the Caribbean Sea. If it can consolidate, then it could take off and really start to develop. What do the computer models show? Well, we take a look at Hurricane Analytics, one of our partners here and colleagues, Michael Watkins' site, good friend and colleague, worker of mine. His site produces these model plots, and you can see that overall the system will be moving into the Caribbean, Eastern Caribbean Sea here, and then possibly taking on a more northwest trajectory towards the Northwest Caribbean Sea as the week wears on. That area is kind of worrisome because the highest heat content in the entire Western Hemisphere is located where this is headed. Right now, 97L is located in here. The model projections for those that do carry it bring it into increasing heat content. That means the water is not only warm at the surface, but that warm water extends down several dozen, and in some cases several hundred meters deep, and therefore there is plenty of upper ocean heat content available for this to take advantage of. So going back and looking at those models, it'll be important if this does develop, where it tracks and does it head over this very warm water that lies in the Northwest Caribbean Sea. We'll just have to wait and see. One other issue, I guess you could call it that, an interesting tidbit. First, this is the points of origin chart for today, September 1st, through the 10th, the peak of the hurricane season. This is the busiest that this map will get as we reach the peak of the hurricane season. This has the most points of origin of tropical storms and hurricanes of any other map of the year. Notice in the Eastern Caribbean right here, there's not a single point of origin, yet there's a big cluster of them just to the east. Typically, if a tropical wave that comes off Africa does not develop before it reaches about 63 or 64 degrees, 62 degrees longitude, this area right here, I'll highlight it in yellow. If we don't get development there, the system typically has to wait until at least the Central Caribbean, one little development area there just south of Haiti. But this area of the Caribbean, typically called the graveyard, the hurricane graveyard, if they don't develop there, they have to wait. So I think it's going to be important to see, does this tropical wave develop into a depression as it gets into the Caribbean Sea, or does it have to wait until it gets way over here to the Western Caribbean, where climatology favors development more so than not. Looking at the Eastern Pacific, Tropical Storm Kiko sitting out here, not really a threat to land areas at all. Very small area of the cone of uncertainty because it's just going to kind of sit out here and eventually die out over these colder waters of the Eastern Pacific. So we'll be watching 97L very closely. Interest in the Lesser Antilles. This will impact you first, and then possibly Jamaica, maybe Cuba and the Cayman Islands later in the week. We're going to have to watch this. It's interesting, the global computer models do not develop this, and I don't know if that's because they can't handle the elongated structure, but it's clearly developing right in front of our eyes as each hour passes. So it's either going to unwind and sort of undevelop, if you will, and go the other way if the global computer models are to be believed, or it will defy the computer models. They're not perfect. They're not infallible. Sometimes they miss these things, and we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting week ahead, and a heck of a way to start out September when we just went through one of the quietest months, the month of August, in any hurricane season in recent memory. September could be quite a different story. All right, well, have a good rest of your Labor Day weekend. At least nothing major impacting U.S. interests right now. But again, the emphasis on the heavy squally weather for the Caribbean islands. You guys be ready for that. I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. That's my website. Check it out if you haven't already. Always an honor and a privilege to be able to produce these videos for you. I'll be back with much more for you tomorrow.